The wind over the Wyoming plains carried the scent of rain and the echo of thunder that rolled softly over the hills. Maggie Taylor stood on the porch of her weather-worn farmhouse, watching the storm gather in the distance. Her hands were cracked from scrubbing floors, and her back ached from the endless work of keeping the place running after her husband's death. 2 years ago, the roof leaked in 3 places now. Each time it rained, she set out pots and buckets, praying it wouldn't get worse. But as the clouds thickened that evening, she knew her prayers wouldn't hold the shingles together. Her little boy, Sam, came running from the barn. "Ma, the horses are restless. Should I tie him tighter?" She smiled faintly, brushing his hair back. "You're only 10, sweetheart. I'll handle it." But before she could step off the porch, the heavens opened. Rain poured in sheets, and lightning split the sky. Maggie's heart sank. The roof was already losing the battle. She grabbed her coat and dashed inside to move the furniture away from the leaks. Water trickled down the wall like tears. Her meager savings were gone spent on feed, fuel, and school shoes for Sam. There was no one to call, no one to help. That's when headlights swept across the yard. Maggie froze. No one ever came this far out at night. The truck stopped by the porch, and out stepped a tall man in a soaked Stetson hat, his boots splashing in the mud. "Evenin', ma'am," he said, tipping his hat. His voice was deep, calm, and somehow familiar. "Looks like you could use a hand." She recognized him then, Luke Carson. The Carson name carried weight in the county. He owned half the land between town and the mountain ridge. Some called him the Millionaire Cowboy, though he still worked like any ranch hand. Maggie had seen him a few times at the feed store, always polite but distant, as if life had given him more than he ever asked for and taken something in return. "I'm fine," she said quickly. "You don't have to." A thunderclap cut her off, followed by a sudden crash from the back of the house. Luke ran toward it without another word. When she followed, she found part of the roof had caved in above the pantry. Rain poured through the hole, soaking everything. "Where do you keep your ladder?" he shouted over the storm. "Behind the barn." Within minutes, Luke was on the roof, hammer in hand, rain pelting his shoulders. He worked like a man who didn't feel the storm, focused, steady, unstoppable. Maggie watched from the porch, heart pounding with fear and awe. By midnight, the rain slowed to a drizzle. The worst was over. Luke climbed down, drenched but grinning. "That should hold till we can do a real fix," he said, shaking the water from his hat. "We?" she echoed. "Yeah," he said simply. "No way I'm letting you patch that roof alone." The next morning, Maggie found Luke's truck in her driveway again. He'd brought lumber, nails, and tools that looked new enough to belong to a contractor. "You really don't have to do this," she insisted as he unloaded the supplies. He gave her a small smile. "Maybe I don't have to, but I want to." Sam watched with wide eyes, whispering to his mother, "He's like one of those heroes in the books Miss Ellen reads at school." Maggie tried not to laugh. "He's just being kind, that's all." But Luke wasn't just fixing a roof. Over the next few days, he worked from dawn to dusk, reinforcing beams, replacing boards, and patching shingles. Between hammer blows, he talked about cattle drives, lost friends, and his late father who'd built the Carson Ranch from nothing. Maggie found herself talking, too, about the years she'd spent trying to keep her husband's small farm alive, the loneliness that crept in after dark, and her fears about raising Sam on her own. Luke listened, really listened. One afternoon, as they worked side by side, Maggie handed him a glass of lemonade. He set his hammer down and looked at her with eyes that held more understanding than pity. "You've done all this on your own," he said quietly. "Most folks would have sold and moved on." "I made a promise to my husband," she said, her voice catching. "This was his dream. I'm just keeping it alive for him and for Sam." Luke's jaw tightened. And who's keeping you alive, Maggie? She didn't know how to answer that doubt by the end of the week. The roof was strong again, gleaming in the morning sun. Maggie felt a weight lift from her shoulders. I don't know how to thank you, she said as Luke packed up his tools. Don't need to, he replied, brushing sawdust from his shirt. Just glad to see this place smiling again. He started to leave, but Sam ran up holding something behind his back. Wait, Mr. Luke. When Luke turned, the boy handed him a horseshoe polished and tied with a red ribbon. For good luck. Mail says people like you make their own, but I thought maybe you could use a little extra. Luke chuckled softly. Thank you, partner. I'll keep it close. Maggie's eyes stung as she watched the two shake hands. Days turned into weeks. Luke stopped by often, sometimes with tools, sometimes with coffee, sometimes just to check in. Each visit made the farmhouse feel less empty. One crisp morning, Maggie found him repairing the broken gate by the pasture. Luke, you can't keep fixing everything around here, she said with a smile. He looked up, teasing. You're right. I still need to fix that squeaky porch step. She laughed, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in far too long. That's not what I meant. He straightened, leaning against the fence. Then what do you mean? I mean, you've done enough. You have your own ranch to run, people depending on you. He nodded slowly. I do. But when I'm here, I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. Her breath caught. Luke, he stepped closer, his voice low but steady. Maggie, I lost someone years ago. Thought I'd never open my heart again. But lately seeing you fight for this place, for your boy, it reminded me what real strength looks like. You deserve better than carrying the world alone. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't need better. I just need peace. He smiled gently. Sometimes better is peace. As autumn settled over the plains, Luke became part of their routine. He taught Sam how to ride, fixed the fences before the first frost, and helped Maggie sell her crops at the county fair. But small-town whispers started to swirl, people wondering why the richest man in the valley was spending so much time with a widow on a broken farm. Maggie tried to ignore it, but one afternoon she saw Luke arguing with an old friend near the feed store. You could have any woman in the county, the man was saying. Why her? Luke's answer was quiet but firm. Because she doesn't want what I have. She just wants to stand on her own 2 feet, and I give up everything I own to stand beside her. When Maggie heard about it later, she didn't know whether to cry or smile. Winter came early that year. The snow was heavy, and one evening, the power went out. Maggie lit the old oil lamp and gathered blankets for Sam. A knock came at the door, and when she opened it, Luke stood there with a box of firewood and a grin. Figured you could use some company and a few extra logs, he said. She welcomed him in, the warmth between them stronger than the fire they built. Sam fell asleep on the rug, curled up beside the old dog, while outside the wind howled. Luke sat across from her, his face glowing in the lamplight. I've been thinking, he said softly. You've rebuilt a home, Maggie, but maybe it's time someone rebuilt your heart too. She looked down, tears glinting in her eyes. I don't know if I can. He reached across the table, his calloused hand finding hers. You don't have to do it alone. Just let me be here, one day at a time. For the first time in years, she didn't pull away. Spring brought color back to the land and to Maggie's life. The roof gleamed, the fields grew green, and laughter filled the farmhouse again. One morning, as she hung laundry on the line, Luke came riding up the hill. He dismounted, holding a small velvet box. Her heart stopped. Luke, he smiled nervously. Don't worry, I'm not asking for an answer today. Just wanted you to have this. He opened the box to reveal a simple silver locket. Inside was a picture of her, Sam, and the old farmhouse with its new roof. I took it last week, he said. Figured it belonged with you. You built all this again from nothing, Maggie.
You deserve someone who sees that.
She touched the locket, her eyes glistening. You keep saying that you deserve better, but maybe better isn't about money or big ranches.
Maybe it's just about being seen.
He smiled, stepping closer. Then I see you, Maggie Taylor. And I'm not looking away. That evening, the sun dipped low over the hills, painting the sky in gold. Luke stood on the porch beside her, the same porch where he'd first appeared in a storm months ago. The wind was calm now, the house strong, the air full of quiet promise. Maggie leaned her head on his shoulder and whispered, "You fixed more than my roof, Luke." He kissed the top of her hair and murmured, "You fixed me too." And for the first time since she'd been left alone on that broken farm, Maggie believed that sometimes life sent storms not to destroy what we built, but to bring someone who'd help us rebuild, someone who'd see us through the rain, someone who'd say, with quiet certainty, "You deserve better," and mean every word.